East Palestine, Ohio, the site of a major derailment on Friday, February 3rd, 2023. The NTSB recorded this drone video on Sunday, February 5th. Now, the scene may have changed since then, but this is some of the closest footage I've seen. Keep in mind, this was shot when it was just too dangerous for first responders to be here. There are all types of cars on the ground: boxcars, covered hoppers, and tank cars. If you haven't heard all the details about this, well, here they are. This was a Norfolk Southern train which originated in Madison, Illinois and was headed to Conway, Pennsylvania, and East Palestine, Ohio borders Pennsylvania. According to the NTSB, about 50 cars were involved in the derailment. 10 of the cars that derailed were carrying hazardous materials. 5 were hauling vinyl chloride. Okay, so the question on everyone's mind, what caused all this? Well, the NTSB is still in the very early stages of its investigation, and keep in mind, this is preliminary information.
We have obtained 2 videos which show preliminary indications of mechanical issues on one of the rail car axles. We are working to identify which rail car experienced the potential mechanical issue for further examination.
All right, so there is trackside equipment designed to alert rail workers about issues like this.
We can say the crew did receive an alarm from a wayside defect detector shortly before the derailment, indicating a mechanical issue. Then an emergency brake application initiated.
So what exactly is the detector he's talking about, and what does it do? Let's look at one that another railroad uses where I live in Georgia.
CSX Equipment Defect Detector.
It's an odd thing to hear while listening to railroad radio traffic, a robotic voice transmitting to a passing train. But these unusual devices serve a very important function. As its automated broadcast says, this is called a defect detector. The one here is located in Tucker, Georgia, and this train is about to pass over it. So let's take a look at the different pieces of hardware in use here. First are these hotbox or hot bearing detectors. So-called hotboxes referred to overheated journal boxes used on older rolling stock with plain bearings. They contained oil-soaked cotton or rags that could catch a car on fire if the oil leaked or dried out. Modern equipment uses roller bearings, and this piece of technology uses infrared eyes to determine if things are getting too hot. These infrared eyes are on each side of the track. Now, railcar wheels can also heat up if, for example, a handbrake is left on while the train is in motion. As the end of this train passes over this spot, you can also see these metal flaps or cones sticking up on either side of the rails. They detect dragging equipment. If something hits them, a circuit is broken, and the automated voice will broadcast it over the radio. This one is sprung and returns to its upright position if it's hit. There's also an axle counter here. It does just what its name suggests, and it can help the crew find where the problem is on their train. Believe it or not, automatic defect detectors have been around since the mid-20th century. But the Seaboard Airline was the first to use equipment that verbally transmitted its results over the radio. Okay, before we move on, here's what a Norfolk Southern defect detector sounds like when things are going according to plan.
Norfolk Southern, milepost 195.1, no defects.
There's no doubt, countless first responders rushed out to this scene to fight the fire that started here. And big railroads, including Norfolk Southern, actually train emergency personnel on how to deal with incidents on the railroad. You can see this train is really specialized. It was revealed in April of 2016. All the cars have special paint schemes and are pulled by NS number 5642, an electromotive division GP38-2. The boxcars here have been converted into classrooms, while the tank cars have platforms where first responders can get a good look at fittings and valves. Here are some pictures from inside this tank car. Trystan Zimmerman sent me these shots. He's a firefighter who took classes on this train, and I've linked his YouTube channel below. And here's an inside look at the boxcar that's been converted into a classroom. By the way, the flat cars have things seen all the time on the rails these days: shipping containers. Of course, you'll see containers like these hauled by trucks, trains, and ships. Now, the locomotive up front often gets the most attention from rail fans and the general public. Number 5642 is definitely unique, but like everything else here, it's something that first responders can climb up on and look at firsthand. Engines like this have huge diesel fuel tanks, and among other things, first responders would need to know how to shut a locomotive down in the event of an emergency. That's likely one of the many things they would learn when this train shows up. According to Norfolk Southern's Operation Awareness and Response website, classes include safety around the railroad, understanding rail shipping documents, tank car identification, tank car valves and fittings, locomotive emergencies, and responding to railroad emergencies. Now, I don't know if this train and the courses offered on board could have prepared first responders for what unfolded in East Palestine. Fortunately, the NTSB says they are unaware of any injuries as a result of all this. As far as an official cause, an NTSB preliminary report should be out in about 4 to 6 weeks, and a full investigation takes about 18 to 24 months. Let's keep the folks who live in this area in our thoughts. Their lives have definitely been affected by this derailment.